Hello, everyone. This is David Morris, publisher of Lake Drive Books, where we create books that help you heal, grow, and discover. And I am joined once again, actually, by Marla Taviano, author of now not just one, but two books with Lake Drive Books, which is very exciting. Thank you, Marla. How are you doing today, Marla?
I am great. Yeah, I'm great. I'm great.
Ready to talk about unbelieve?
I am. I really am. I'm so excited that she is being re-released out into the world. I self-published her in 2021, and now I can show people this is what she used to look like, and this is the new and improved Lake Drive books.
Yay.
Unbelieve. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. So that's actually your first book. And with Lake Drive, there's a second book now as well called Jaded, a
Got that
poetic
one here too.
reckoning with white Christian evangelical indoctrination.
Yeah,
Did I
it's
get it
a
right?
lot of words. I don't know, probably,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Close enough.
yeah, yeah. So that's very cool. And there's even going to be one more book of
Yeah,
poetry
that
in
one
this
is going to
vein.
be
Yeah,
turned into my publisher 2 days from now.
yeah.
So that will be a trilogy, and then I will move forward and move on with my life on the other side
Let's
of
let's just let's just jump
deconstruction.
right into that. I had an icebreaker
Okay.
question. Let's just jump right in.
All
Um,
right.
so we've mentioned the word poetry already, and we've talked about unbelieve and then jaded, and there's going to be a third. Um,
hmm
so did you foresee yourself writing three books of poetry in your deconstruction journey, as we might call it?
No, absolutely not. I haven't written poetry since I was in first grade. No, you say that was my first book, and that's what I tell people because the past books that I wrote, I have four traditionally published books in 2006,
Mhm.
7, 8, and 9 that are very conservative Christian. The words on the jaded cover that I say that I'm reckoning with. So those were about marriage, sex, pregnancy, motherhood, and that was my past life. I don't recommend
Which
those
of
books to
course you were an
people.
expert in all those areas.
Well, obviously, I was 30 when I wrote the book on marriage, so I knew everything that there
Yeah.
was to know, and I could help all the other young women who
Yes.
look to me as a beacon of whatever experience and wisdom.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I wrote those books, and then I did a whole bunch of self-published ebooks for a while. So Unbelieve in 2021 was my first book of poetry, my first um, I won't say real book, my first physical book that I had done in a while. And I started it when I first started deconstructing. I don't know, 2008, 2009, 2010. I was just always writing about what was going on in my life. So the shifting faith was no different. And I would write and write and write, and then I'd change my mind and I would delete things and rewrite them and rewrite them. And it was kind of going faster than I could keep up with. And I'd have things that I had written a couple years before, and I thought, I don't even want to say that anymore. And so it, it was tough. I always planned to publish it, but it wasn't gonna be poetry. I wasn't thinking about poetry.
Yeah. Interesting.
So in 2020, we moved back to the States from 5 years in Cambodia. Then my ex-husband left unexpectedly, and I had planned to start writing that book and get it ready. And then when he left and all these things happened, I mean, we were all in the middle of just what's going on in this world. And I somehow just started chipping away at the prose that I'd written, and it turned into poems. I think part of it was, wow, we all have shorter attention spans now. Wow, there's a lot of words out there in the world, and how am I going to get people to pay attention to mine? And I just found that I could say things really succinctly and get my point across with less words, fewer words. And I decided to go for it. So I mean, there are different kinds of poems. There's some that are just like a few words on the page, and then some are maybe like a whole page. But I was just I don't know. I can't really explain how it all happened, but it did happen. And I decided that I want to write like this for a while. It's working for me, it's working for other people. And I've said a lot of words over my lifetime already. And so I'm
Yeah.
saying
Yeah. Yeah,
less
exactly.
words.
I think it's actually quite brilliant. One of the things about evangelical Christians is we love to be linear and logical and rational
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
and very propositional.
Hmm.
And so there's a lot of ink that's spilled. There's a lot of
Yeah.
books. I mean, I'm from the Christian book publishing industry, tons of
Yeah.
books, tons of
Yeah.
revenue. And honestly, too, evangelical Christians, this is going to sound strange to some people's ears. They're not very good at art. They're not very good
Mm,
at being lyrical.
mm,
Um, and I think that what you're doing in poetry is you're bringing those muscles back in. Let's be
mm,
literary about our faith. Let's
mm.
pause. Let's go slower. It's not some big list of accomplishments that we're trying to tick off and win.
Yeah.
And that's what I think your reading does. It slows us down. It kind of, also with the deconstruction journey, there's a lot of emotion in there. And your
Hmm.
poetry, I think, helps us sort of like tap into that more quickly than just a linear book that you've got to read, 60,000 words.
Yeah, and it's very much also about not trying to explain every single thing, like
Yeah.
not feeling a need to explain myself, defend my faith. And I did that for a long, long time. People would come at me and I would just spew all of this, like this airtight defense that you hear about.
Yes.
And for one, I couldn't do that anymore when my faith started shifting and crumbling. And for two, I didn't want to do it anymore. That was the most stressful part of being a Christian for me was what if someone comes along and they ask me something that I don't know or I can't defend or it doesn't make sense?
Right.
Because
Right.
that had been happening for a while. The cognitive dissonance of people coming and saying things like, the Genesis story is a myth, right? Or things that I was just like, oh, no,
Right.
don't
Right.
don't say that. I can't handle that.
Right.
And then when I started changing my mind about things and yeah, largely freaking out at the beginning, it's just it it's so freeing to not have to feel like you're constantly defending, constantly building up this wall. Someone puts a chink in it and you've got to fix it and you're scurrying
Yeah.
all around trying to keep it safe. And I didn't want to live like that
Yeah.
anymore. And I'm not living like that now.
Yeah.
And I put the word heretic on the cover, regretted it a couple times, but mostly I'm been really happy with my choice because I don't care. Yeah, if someone comes to
Heretic.
me
Oh, this is the marked
and
up copy.
and says, "Oh, you're a heretic for saying that." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going to claim that based on what your definition of heretic
Yeah.
probably is." And there are so many people that have different ideas about what it is.
So
But
you came
yeah.
from a, sorry to interrupt, you came from a pretty highly structured, high commitment Christianity growing up. And you started asking questions and you made a transition over a period of time. Um, but you were well, you've gotten a lot of feedback. Like you've had a lot of very linear minded, argument minded Christians contact you. In fact, it hasn't always been pleasant, even sometimes close family members. Sorry, I'm getting to the really meaty stuff here.
No, it's just
um
funny. You're like, it hasn't always been pleasant. No, it has not been
I've
pleasant.
gotten to know you enough, and I've read your writings, and you've had a lot of like not very thoughtless and inconsiderate comments on social media, not just by people who don't know you, like who are just dropping in like trolls, but people who maybe are kind of close to you or in your circle somewhere. That's pretty hard, and it was hard to see all that.
Yeah, it's different now, and I wouldn't say that I've gotten over all of that, but I kind of have. There's been a lot of healing that has happened. At the beginning, I mean, I've always just shared very honestly and openly with how I feel. It just happened that I fit in the boxes that these people wanted me to fit in. So when I started being open and honest about racism, about white supremacy, about, wait, maybe we should love gay people. Oh, wait, maybe this, that, and whatever it was, I was just putting it out there as I learned it. Now, I don't care to go back and read through all those Facebook posts. I am going to assume that some of them came across as pretty, I don't know, kind of brash and bold and maybe rude. And could I have done it better? Yeah, probably. I don't know what I would go back and change, but yes, people would come and just start fighting with me. And the thing is, I get it because I was that person who was convinced that I was
Mm.
right. And so if someone were to come along, I would fight back. The difference is, and I can't say this for absolute certain, but I don't remember being cruel to people. Like, I would say what I believed, but I would try to be kind about it. These people who are supposed to follow Jesus and love their neighbor and all of that, they were being cruel and hateful to me, which is different than just respectfully arguing with someone that you disagree with. So even, yes, people in my own family
Right.
who pulled back and didn't want to see me anymore. Someone very, very close to me, one of my siblings, disowned me, and I haven't seen them in years now. And they were super cruel. And I even said at one point to them, why are you being so cruel? And they said, well, if it wouldn't have been you, I wouldn't have been so cruel. Like the proximity to me gave them the
Yeah.
license to just be extra mean and hateful. And then saying things like, you don't need people to be kind to you right now, Marla. You need people to tell you the truth. And
Yeah.
the truth is, you're going to hell if you this, that, and the other, or you're
Right.
leading other people to hell, or whatever it was that I was doing. So unbelieve is very much um my story, and it goes along kind of in order of the dominoes that fell and the things that I started changing my mind and heart about, the ways that I woke up to things. And I put in there, I mean, I don't name any names, but there are actual excerpts from letters that I got, emails that I got, Facebook posts, things that people said to me. And there was a lot of hate and cruelty, and those people aren't in my life anymore. And so very rarely someone will come pop back onto Instagram or Facebook and be like, oh, hey, what's going on with you? This is weird.
Right.
And they aren't caught up on where I am over the last
Right.
10 years. But the internet is a much more peaceful, happy space for me now because they pulled themselves out. Well, I did block some of them. I mean, there
Yeah.
are some people that I blocked on Facebook, but
Yeah.
yeah, whew, I don't miss
There is a little
all
bit of
that.
that where people to pull away or
Mhm.
realize they can't go there with you anymore, even if you do still see
Well,
them.
and I've had multiple people, one woman in particular, she sent me a Facebook message in 2020, and right after George Floyd was murdered, and said, I unfriended you in 2016 because I didn't like the things that you were saying about racism. And I'm sorry. Can we be friends again? So that took, like, took her that long, the different things that were
Yeah.
happening for her to wake up. I
Yeah.
still hold out hope for some of these people. Some people I think I don't see any hope, but she might have been one of the people that I would have seen no
Yeah.
hope for.
Yeah.
And 4 years later, there she was. So yeah.
How would you, so you've been through a lot. Um, and I guess a lot of us have this very lonely feeling, this scared feeling, even about possible confrontations with family members. Maybe lack of community is a big thing. Lack of identity in who we are, maybe a
Mhm.
lack of a sense of purpose, having to rediscover those things. Um, how would you advise somebody who is on this journey and asking big questions and realizing they can't go back to where they were, but if they go forward, it's scary and they're feeling discouraged and overwhelmed?
There's no easy answer, and I don't feel super equipped to give people advice like that for a couple reasons. Number one, I went through this at a time when I could gradually do it because there weren't as many people doing it. So I could
Mm.
take my time and go slowly. And the other thing I'll say is that I moved to the other side of the world in January 2015. And so that I had already started waking up to many things, like Trayvon Martin's death in 2012 was a big catalyst for me, learning about racism and white supremacy, and meeting with Black friends and talking to them. So that was big. But 2015 was huge for me. And that's when I was shifting so much. And then, of course, with 2016 with Trump, and then I was in Cambodia from 2015 to 2020. So I wasn't in the same personal space. I wasn't at a church where people were starting to not like me. I wasn't next door to my family. I wasn't with the people who would not have liked what I was
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
So the people that disowned me, they did it via the internet, like from
Yeah.
afar. Like it
Yeah.
was not super close. So I can't answer that because that was not my experience. But I
Yeah.
have lost a lot of people, lost a lot of community. I haven't been to church since 2017. Have I found something to replace that? No. And I'm actually not looking for something to replace that. The more I think about church and the community that's there, it's kind of a twisted sort of community sometimes, where we're close and we're a family, but you have to do this and this and this. And the
Right.
second you change your mind or think something differently, we're going to turn on you. Kind of like my own family did. Like we were loving and kind and had so much fun together. But the minute I stepped out of line, they became my enemies, like almost instantly overnight.
Mm.
And I don't know, I don't want the kind of community where if I do something or I'm
Yeah.
not towing the line, then I'm just gonna get not just talked to, I'm gonna get shunned, I'm gonna get people are gonna say things about me, they're gonna warn people about me. And yeah, I don't have any use
Yeah.
for that. So
Yeah.
my community now that I find is people who have the same passions as me,
Yeah.
specifically books or justice or whatever that is.
Right.
Not a group of people who have to hold the same beliefs about a book that was written
Right.
2,000 years ago.
Right. It's a big,
That's
big,
not,
that's a
yeah,
big question. Like, do we even need the kind of community that we thought we needed in the past? Is that what we really
no,
need to do we really need to replace that with with the same kind of
yeah.
tight knit community? All right, maybe one more question. I do think though, in what you said about being in Cambodia for all that time, actually there is advice sort of built into that, and that is creating space. You know,
Mm.
if you can get away from it for a
My
while,
advice is if you can leave the country.
yeah, leave the country for 5 years in a completely different world. Um,
Yeah. And
yeah,
yeah, there's a poem in my upcoming book that I'm finishing now where I talk about how people ask me, why not go back to church? If you're like have all these problems with church, go back and try to change it from the inside.
right.
And then I've said, you know what, I'm not going to do that. And I give reasons in Jaded. There's another poem where I talk about
Yeah,
why I'm not going to. But then someone asked me, if you care so much about fighting racism, why not come back to the United States and fight it? Now, this person was kind of a jerk, and they were saying it I mean, they had a lot of racist things to say, and they were kind of mocking me. Well, in that case, I did come back. I
yeah,
didn't come back to the US just to fight racism. But in that instance, I was like, yeah, I will. I was
yeah,
doing what I could from Cambodia, but I can do more when I'm right here
yeah,
in the middle of it. But I'm not going back to church to try to
yeah,
change churches. If I do go to a church, it's going to be a church that already believes and values the things that I value.
yeah, yeah. All right, well, we should wrap up. But there's a lot of great things in your book. It's 300 pages of poetry. There are appendices in the back for further reading that kind of even document your deconstruction journey. Looking at being affirming, looking at racism, looking at gender, all the way down the line. There's one thing in your appendices that where you're apologizing to Democrats. Why are you apologizing to Democrats, Marla?
Okay, well, make sure you get it right, David, because it's an apology to Democrats, and then in parentheses, and Jesus.
Okay,
So,
yeah.
okay, and then you also have to look at the date, which is August 4th, 2011. So this was a long time ago, but it kind of shows, and the reason I put it in there is it shows you where I was at back then. So it's not till 2011 that I'm like, oh, I should apologize to Democrats. And I say things like, I'm sorry for assuming that God is a Republican. I'm sorry that for thinking that God mostly lives in America. I'm sorry for being so narrowly focused on homosexuality and how wrong it is to the exclusion of many other issues, the ones the Bible says over and over again God actually cares about most. And I talk about how I'm sorry that when you were loving people and I told you we really need to be saving people. So it was just something I did where I was saying all of these things. And it made a big impact. I mean, it pissed people off. Some people were really happy about it. Other people who were Democrats who were my friends, I don't know why they wanted to be my friend when I was who I was back then, but they had still stuck with me. And they're thinking to themselves, good, finally, she has woken up to the truth. And it's not even about, okay, now let's all be Democrats. There's a whole bunch of problems in this country with Democrats also, and it's not like a political party can save us. But
Right.
by and large, especially now, what the Republican Party stands for, just it not only goes against everything that I now value, it goes against everything Jesus talked about in the gosh dang Bible. Like,
Yeah,
that's the part that is mind blowing. And that's the part I think woke people up when Trump came into office, because
that's it right there. Yeah.
for when you've got like these good Christian Republicans like George W. Bush, who wouldn't hurt a flea, although whatever, but then Trump comes along and some people are like, yeah, and the other people are like, well, wait a second. He's
Yeah.
he's not a nice guy. He's not good. He's not a
Yeah.
Christian. He's not, and why do we like him? And so yeah,
Yeah.
it's a whole thing. But yes, I did apologize to
Yeah.
Democrats, apologize to
Right.
Jesus, and everything's fine now.
Jesus forgives you, that's for sure.
Thank
I don't know about
you. Thank you
Democrats,
for
but
no, you know what? Okay, here's what I'll say too. I know we're wrapping up. I have been floored by the people who have forgiven me for the things I did and said when I was a conservative evangelical
wow.
Christian.
Yeah.
Holy crap. Not just Democrats, not just my Black friends, not just my gay friends, not just my Muslim friends, like all of these people. And maybe not every single one of them has forgiven me, but by and large, they have forgiven me for all the crap I said and believed and thought. And I will
Not
say
holding it against
that,
you.
yes, that
Mhm.
I've had people say to me, even then, you were still loving to me. So I don't know what that was about,
Mm.
where how I could act loving, but then hold these beliefs that were not loving. But I'm grateful for that. And what we're seeing a lot of now is the people who are really loving in their heart, they're trying to figure out, maybe I shouldn't hold these beliefs. The people that never were loving in their heart, that unloving nature is coming right out.
Yeah.
And so
If
we
it's
can
there,
kind
it's
of
coming
see
out.
now
Yeah.
who who believes these things because they truly want to love
Yeah.
people, and who
Yeah.
believes this because of some power grab or
Yes.
whatever.
And
But
I still will always believe that there's more people with who are truly loving in their heart, and it's more a question of becoming aware, waking up, as you said, learning from each other, and we've got to get these conversations going. And I think that's I mean, it's hard for me too, and that's something
yeah,
that we got to keep doing. Well, this is great. Thank you so much. Thanks for working together on both these books. Unbelieve is
yeah,
really awesome. um I think it's just such a wonderful thing to be able to just sit and read. Doesn't take long. It's a bigger book, but it doesn't take long, and it's just such
yeah.
a joy to read to read poetry like this. And
Thank
I
you.
hope people will pick it up, and we're going to be making it available for a very long time to come.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Marla.
David.